Welcome to the Out on a Limb podcast. We are all interconnected to a greater web of consciousness. Our aim is to open your mind to a new world through having open-minded discussions about what we perceive our reality to be.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast with your hosts, Will and Allison. On this special series, we've explained the absence of Samantha because we're doing a special podcast series on our recent trip to Egypt. And so if you haven't checked out episode 1, where we gave the overview, and episode 2, where we gave some of the nitty-gritty of more specific things about the trip if you're planning to go, then do watch those first. But this one is really going to be near and dear to our hearts, I think, because this is perhaps what you guys were waiting for and what we have really wanted to share. And that is all of the mystical, magical, unexplainable occurrences, events, experiences that we had while there. And really, it happened, I think, every day.
Yes.
Every single day there was some new magic is all that I can explain it as. And so what we're going to share with you is not only what actually took place and what we were thinking in the moment, but also what we have channeled since then that has reinforced our understanding and enriched our understanding of what actually took place.
Right.
So
and
we'll
I,
be sharing
and,
some
you know,
of
and
that.
just, you know, and I think that's some of the, I guess, the specialty of the group that we're putting together, you know, the group that we put together and the group that we're going to be putting together, you know, for the next Christmas or next, you know, December, is that, you know, there's a lot of additional information that is going to be brought in through the channeling process. So either before, during, and after. That's really kind of what is the, I guess, the special aspect of the groups that we're putting together. So, yeah. So for those that are interested, you know, listen up. This is what you get to experience.
Right. And it's fun and exciting. And so one of the things that we did when we initiated this trip is we created the itinerary to be flexible. We've had never been before, of course, and we didn't know how long each visit might take or whether we would be able to channel on site on the actual grounds of the sacred sites, or if it would need to take place at the hotel before or after, all of that sort of thing. But we just knew that the universe was going to figure it out for us. Between the universe and Abdullah being part of that universe, it really was magically organized.
Yeah.
So we'll start with one of the reasons that we know that, and that is the very first day that we arrived, we shared with you that Judy came with us, and then Chris arrived a short time later, and the four of us that first day went to the mall, and we were hanging out and talking with Abdullah, who was with us, waiting for all of the other arrivals. They were all scheduled to come in around 4.
Yeah, about
anywhere
4:30
from
or so, yeah.
4 to 10 in the evening.
Yep.
And then the first official day would start the next day. Well, as it happened, there was some weather on the East Coast up near Philadelphia, which were some of the connection points.
JFK
and also,
in Philadelphia, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so one by one, we were getting pinged as we were kind of going through our early afternoon that people were coming in later than expected. And some were going to get there around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And so because of that, we thought our first official day on the ground was going to be a full day at the pyramids, at the Giza Plateau, with all of the pyramids and the Sphinx and the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's like one of the biggest things that was going to happen on our trip. And we thought,
And that was to take place in the morning, have lunch, you know, later in the afternoon, and then go to the Grand Egyptian Museum after.
which is
So,
also another long,
yeah, several hours.
time-consuming thing, right?
Yep.
And so we thought, if people are not getting a lot of sleep, they're going to be really tired and groggy, and they're not going to be in a space energetically to receive all that they could or understand, right? So our second day was to be Hawara, which was that little-known pyramid area, 2 hours roughly south of where we were staying. And so we decided, and Abdullah was like, absolutely, sure, no problem, that we would flip-flop those 2 days so that we would do Hawara the first day. And the reason was because then if people were tired, they could sleep on the bus to Hawara. it wasn't quite so demanding of a day. And I think we still did the pyramid. I'm sorry, we still did the Grand Egyptian Museum.
That was a hard
first.
fixed time because for those that have traveled there before or are planning on going, you know that if you do purchase your ticket, it's for a specific day and a specific time slot that you have to arrive within for entry. So
the reason I'm setting it all up in that way is because when we were, and I want to say this correctly because I don't want to, I can't say too much about what happened in Hawara. We were asked not to share too much about what we were permitted to do or not do there. And so we did connect with Mother Earth. It was an ancient energy. We did receive a message that about the origins and how we were on the sacred ground of the origin point for humanity and how important that was, right? So that was what we were gathering that was happening. And so later when we got home and we channeled about all of this, the universe or our collective explained that they wanted us to go there first. So we thought it was our idea that we're going to flip-flop Giza and Hawara, but they were like, no, we wanted you to go to Hawara first so that you could connect with the land, the ley lines, which are everywhere. And that's where they built all of those temples, were on ley lines. That's why they feel so energetic.
energy centers. Yeah.
Right. And so Hawara is one of those. In fact, it's older than those at Giza. And so when we connected with Mother Earth there and received her message about how important this was for the origin of humanity, we were receiving the energy, they said, that we would need for the rest of the trip. That was the first connectivity that we needed to provide grounding, they said, for the rest of the trip, because the rest of the trip was going to be very much expansive energy. And they wanted us to have that first grounding piece. So that was really cool to hear that after the fact. And a very powerful ancient message that came through at Hawara. So the next really significant thing, I think, was the second day.
Well,
we'll get back to the Sphinx thing.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and how it tied back.
You got to tie that into there.
Yeah, we alluded to that I think in the first. In our first episode. But the next day was the Great Pyramid. And, of course, that's a highlight of any spiritual pilgrimage. And I really have started calling this a pilgrimage. Interestingly, in a way that the religious folks in that area call it, they take a pilgrimage
Islam, they take
to Mecca.
To Mecca, yeah.
Or is it Medina? There's another place also.
There's a couple, yeah.
But I really felt like this was sort of a pilgrimage of humanity, to go back to the origin of humanity, where we first started our very first incarnations as human beings on this planet. And so to me, it was very much like, wow, everybody needs to have this experience to go back to the homeland, like the origin point.
And I mean, it's, you say the Great Pyramid, but it's even more than just the Great Pyramid. I mean, it's the entire
the whole land
complex that's there. Well, the land, yes, but if we're speaking of just of just the Giza Plateau, there's something that just takes your breath away when you arrive, because you can see it in movies, you can see it in textbooks, you can read about it, you can experience it in videos, but until you're standing there and actually standing on that ground and knowing what took place, it really does take your breath away. I mean, I felt myself many times just with my mouth open, because my mouth open, my eyes wide, because it was so much more to take in than what I've seen on videos or what I've read in books or what I've seen in the history shows and whatever. It just really, really takes you away, and that you're at somewhere that's very, very special, for sure.
Yeah, to stand there and look at it for the first time. It seems so cliche, or we take it for granted because you've seen it in history books and movies.
Right.
But to stand there. So even if you have ever said to yourself, I have no desire to go there, reconsider, because it's I don't know, there's just something about it. So anyway, we all know that the Great Pyramid, and particularly the King's Chamber, because I think there are 3 chambers, we didn't see them all.
Right.
There's something underground or
Yeah, I'm not fully aware of, I mean, I know of them, but I just don't know much about them. But we knew,
Right.
so just more of the logistics, our tour guide Abdullah purchased our entry to the complex, to the Giza Plateau, to experience.
Was there an entry for that? I
Yeah,
can't
so
remember.
that was the entry for that.
But it didn't include going into the Great Pyramid.
Right. He left that up as a personal decision for everyone at the moment if you wanted to do it. And I think that was an additional 40 US dollars. So not a lot to have that experience. So at the moment that he, everybody but one decided to partake and go up into the King's
Because
Chamber.
Abdullah did mention, and I think I talked about this in episode 1, is that if you're claustrophobic, it can be a little bit hairy to go up in that closed, you're bent over and it's a closed kind of uphill.
A closed incline of about, I'd say, maybe 30 meters, maybe a little more than 30 meters, so 100 feet, maybe a little more than 100 feet. And I would say it's 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot square. It's 3 foot on each side.
People coming both ways.
Yeah, so you've got people coming and going, and you're both hunched over, and you're kind of rubbing shoulders and butts as you come up and down.
The heat.
So,
add to that the heat and the humidity. That was the part that threw me off.
And we're not trying to
Not
say that it's
discourage
bad.
anybody. No.
Right. It's just what to experience. I mean, it's you have to kind of really talk about it in a experiential way, but yeah,
It was definitely worth it
Yeah.
to make myself do that. But at any rate, there is I think there's an underground place that we weren't permitted to go, and then there's the Queen's Chamber, and then the King's Chambers at the top. And apparently there are these 3 levels that back in the day, they would be initiated in all 3 of those, culminating in the King's Chamber. And so the energy up there is profound, and it's really funny to me. In preparation for this next trip, I've been watching a lot more just normal tourists visiting Egypt and all of the things. And I've heard a couple of them recently. I guess they're obviously not woo-woo. And they're like, one couple said, yeah, we decided we just wanted to explore the outside of the pyramid because we didn't want to pay $40 to go in there because there's really nothing in there. I'm like, oh my goodness. Or another one said, yeah, we went up, but it's just this room and there's really not much to it. And then we came down and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I guess I can because I used to
right.
be pretty much not understanding all of this, right? Anyway, okay. So when we booked, again, this trip, Abdullah knew that we were tackling it from a spiritual aspect, and he was on board with that. He understands all of that. And he also knew that we were not willing at that time to pay the exorbitant fees that they charge people to come in and have special alone time. I think these things are open roughly from 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. till 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So before that,
There's a window
early
before
in the morning,
and a window after.
and in the late evening, you can book an hour-long private
or 2 or yeah.
session in a variety of different places. One of which is, of course, the King's Chamber. It was $2,000, I think, when we inquired about doing it.
And that would be private, our group only for an hour's worth of time. Yeah.
Now, is it worth it? Absolutely, and we'll explain why. Mm-hmm. However, it was very important for us to keep the price low on this particular trip so that we could include as many people that wanted to go as possible. We also are not financially super well off, and so we were paying for both of us to take the whole tour and the airline fees and all of that kind of stuff. So we wanted to keep everything reasonable, and so we didn't build that in. But we knew, again, that the universe would make a way for us to have time on site, perhaps, or something like that.
And whatever that might look like, yeah.
So Abdullah knew that was our goal, and he is so familiar with all of the people that run all of these sites and all of the friends that he has made over 25 years. So Abdullah knew what we were looking for, what kind of trip we were creating, and so he was able to work some magic in some places, right? So the pyramid was one of those. So we find ourselves at the top.
In the King's Chamber.
In the King's Chamber, once I overcame my panic attack.
Yeah. Yep.
And the gentleman that was up there, I don't know I don't even know if
I
they're
think-
called, what are they called? Are they
I
called?
would say they're guards. They're the ones that kind of usher people up and down, you know, making sure that the flow of people are going. But they're also the ones that kind of, you know, they're making sure that everything goes correctly. And I would say guards or facilitators, maybe but
the
yeah.
same kind of people that work, you know, in
Like at a museum that stand in an exhibit, they're making sure people aren't just clogging the path. So, and they're telling people, hey, let's go, we got to move, we got, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
So we ended up there with some semi-private time. We weren't completely alone with our group of 10, but there weren't very many other people in there at the time. And so that guard walked over to Will, and he must have recognized the heart-centered energy that we were emanating. I mean, our group was super heart-centered and connected, and we were just jiving. And so he recognized that energy, and he was excited about it. So he takes Will.
Yeah.
And if you want to explain what,
what he
did.
Just to kind of paint the picture, all of our group except for myself went in. Now, if you see pictures of it or have been, you know, the sarcophagus that sits at the edge of one wall. Well, he took us up there and he lined everybody up and set everybody on the ground in front of that, and I kind of stood off to the side, kind of bent over, kind of talking and all of that to the group. And then a few moments went by, and then he comes over, and as everybody's kind of starting to stand up, he comes over, he grabs me, not grabs me aggressively, but he gets a hold of me, and he says, move. And so he grabs me and pushes me and like lines me up right on the end of the sarcophagus. If you're looking at the sarcophagus, it would be the right-hand side, and looks at the wall, and he lines me up with something on the wall, and then takes my head and places my head against the wall and says, don't move. I'm like, okay, well then.
And close your eyes.
And close my eyes.
Yeah.
Well then, you know, obviously I want to see what's going on. So I'm opening my eyes, and I took my head off, and he happened to see me and he goes, no. And he comes back and he puts my head against the wall. I'm like, oh boy. So I close my eyes and I just surrender to the situation. And I just kind of fall into this really energetic spot where, you know, mind you, up to that point, I'm taking pictures of everything. I've probably
for the King's Chamber.
Well, right. I've captured, you know, for this entire trip, probably 2,000 pictures. At that moment, I didn't even think about my camera. I didn't think about anything. And so kind of several minutes in, I just kind of.
In the meantime, he took me.
Yeah, right.
And he called me queen, and he puts me
Yes.
at the opposite end. So I'm facing Will. We're on either side of the
We're
sarcophagus.
looking at each other.
And my head's up against the wall, and my eyes are closed or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
he
we're
kept
both
calling-
having our own experience.
Right. He kept calling me Pharaoh.
Yeah, and he was
Yeah.
saying, and after it was all over, our whole group was gathered around, and he was looking at Will earnestly and saying, this guy is important, you need to protect him, you know, and he just kept saying that over and over. And he said that when you all came in, the room was filled with energy, and they were all lined up against the wall. He was seeing all of this energy
Right.
and all of these beings. And it turns out that, yeah, we had a huge contingency of beings that we brought up with us and that were already there. And what we ended up understanding that we did was opening 2 portals on either side of the sarcophagus in order to hold this energetic cocoon open so that the rest of our group could receive whatever they needed to receive.
Right.
And those portals were open up to the all.
Yeah.
And so they said, basically, yes, you can access anything and go anywhere from that space if you know how to do it, and you're strong enough to hold those portals open, right?
Yep.
So that was really crazy profound. That was
Yeah. Well, that was our experience. And then we had another lady
and-
that was with us that was kind of standing in the middle of the space, I believe.
She
And
was directed there by him too.
That's right. Yeah. Right in the middle of the space. So imagine a big square. And so she's in the middle of that square.
At the same time, all of us.
All of
were.
us, right.
So she was also feeling, what she explained later, this
Shaft of
shaft
light.
of light, right, coming down from the center of the pyramid
And it was
through
very,
her.
very hot.
And she
Yeah.
said she found it very hard to stand there
Right. Yeah. She said
and
it was.
not fall over.
It was very hot. And then when she said that, it reminded me when he placed me there the second time he put my head against, and I could feel this energy coming in, even though it was well over 100 degrees up there and very high humidity. So it was very stuffy, very close, if you want to call it that. But I instantly was chilled. I mean, not chilled like shivery chilled like you'd get when you feel an energy, but this was like cold, like just like space, like
Oh,
out in space. This vastness of cold but not uncomfortable. And I was so connected to that. It was really, really amazing to experience that. And then several people put their hands within the over the lip of the sarcophagus, and they got a really strong, like, grounding energy, I believe.
Yeah, we were told that was a very grounding energy for them. Yeah, and everybody received what they needed to. It was fascinating. We channeled for everybody afterwards, and everybody got exactly what they needed. And then on the way down, there's kind of like a outcropping.
So as you're
coming back down,
visualize yourself coming out of the King's Chamber. You're going down this descending, open, grand space, and right before you make the transition to go down
squat,
into the small descending shaft, there's a little U-shaped entryway, and that's for the Queen's Chamber. So the Queen's Chamber is beyond that. You'd have to go in through another door and go into the Queen's Chamber. That's my understanding. Well, he didn't take us in the Queen's Chamber, but he lined us up against the wall, and he specifically said, you get here, you get in, lined us all up, and then he began to basically give us a blessing, like a verbal blessing of a chant and kind of in Arabic. I mean, he was,
I think he touched everybody's head.
I think so. I think like everyone's forehead, he just put a little blessing on everybody's forehead. It was well beyond any expectation that we even could conceive of that whole experience.
So what we understood after the fact of that too was that was where we were receiving the feminine energy to balance the masculine energy of the King's Chamber, that was very much masculine, and that he recognized we needed some balance. So that's why we stopped there, and then we went on
and then we
out
exited out the pyramids.
And we were also told in channel that the person who didn't go up with us was still receiving all of the benefits of the open portal, even though she was standing outside of the pyramid, because she was a part of our group that we were holding.
Yeah, we were all connected at that moment. Yeah.
So that was really off the chain. So after Hawara,
and that's only day 2.
Hawara, and then the Giza Plateau, it was like, okay, and we hadn't even gone to the Sphinx yet, right? So during that time at the Giza Plateau, we're doing the camels and we're doing all the things, and we walk over to where the Giza, or take the bus, I guess, to the Sphinx. And that was where everybody could see it from.
This is the general population where you can just look at the Sphinx. Yeah.
Right. But in the meantime, what had happened was that we explained this in, I think, in episode 1. Our friend Chris was walking around the mall with us, and she asked Abdullah, how close could we get to the Sphinx? And he said, well, it's kind of difficult. We're at the last minute. You were supposed to have paid $2,000 a long time ago. It has to get approved and all the things. It's a holiday. It's a weekend. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was stacked against us completely. But we're like, whatever, go for it.
If the universe wants this, the universe is going to provide.
And we asked, everybody in our group was on board. So he's, doing his thing. And when we were standing there that day to go into the Great Pyramid, it was 11:11, and Abdullah tells our group, I just got a message that you are approved to go into the Sphinx. I think it was the next day at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
At 11:11.
Yeah. And I think when Chris was asking, or when we kind of were talking about it at the mall, I think Judy looked at her phone. It was 1:11.
Might have been, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
So at any rate, we got to see the Sphinx that same day from afar, knowing we were going to come back and see her. Is it a her? I feel like it's a her with a cat energy. I don't know. At any rate, to see it again the next morning. All right. So that brings us to, I think that was.
Well, so we had, then we did lunch, and then we did the Grand Egyptian Museum. Now, did we have any significant experiences in the Grand Egyptian Museum? I did not, other than just, you could, as you made your way through the different dynasties, the different periods of time, you could feel the shift. Like I could feel the shift from the first to the last. And then King Tut was the very last. And so if anybody's been in like the Louvre or any other major, museum like that, there's just thousands of people in there. So it's really hard to, isolate those moments. So yeah, it wasn't I just took it in more for just the visual, and I think that's what most.
Yeah, it was more of a left brain activity.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Now I will say though, I will say when going to the solar boat, that was interesting because there wasn't a ton of people in there, and just looking at that big I mean,
It was incredible.
30-something meter long wooden boat with no metal fasteners, and it's so well preserved, and they reconstructed it. Or at least me, it was, if I sat long enough, I would feel myself going back in time, because it almost is like a journey back in time of seeing, I mean, several thousand, if not, 3,000 or 4,000 year old wooden boat that's still well preserved and put back together. That's just amazing. And seeing all the construction on that, because I'm, for those that know me, spent most of my life on the sea, or around water with the Coast Guard. And so any boat like that, or any structure that's meant for water, I just really take in, for all of what I can see. So.
And I will say that my entire trip was fueled by caffeine and something else. What was it? Caffeine and croissants, I think. I don't know. Croissant. I had a croissant every day. It was great. But so I had to get my caffeine fix. This was probably around 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was tired. And they have a Starbucks right in there, of course.
Well, they have several coffee
Which would have
places.
probably been better, but their lines were even longer than Starbucks, which was already like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. But I didn't have any spiritual awakening stories in Starbucks. It was just
Starbucks.
Starbucks craziness.
Right.
So anyhow, so the next day we're up in the morning, and I think we mentioned that we actually arrived on the Giza Plateau again at around 5:30.
Yeah, I think we
There's
left
a
the
video.
hotel at 4:45 or something like that.
There's a video and a picture with that time frame of reference.
Yeah.
Sometimes he said it takes a while to get in and to get people moving that early in the morning. But at any rate, we were done and ready to go in at 5:45, and they went ahead and let us in.
So actually, we were driving down towards the Sphinx at 5:35. That's what it shows on the video.
Right.
So yeah.
And then in and ready to go at 5:45. So they let us in, which was nice because we were the first group, which meant we had an extra 15 minutes, and there was nobody we had to wait for. Like if we were at 7 instead, we'd be waiting for people to leave. So anyway, this to me was the absolute most profound. The King's Chamber was profound, but I didn't recognize how profound until we got home and compared notes with the collective. But this one, I really, first of all, we have here in Charleston, we've had a small group we called the Envoy Group, and we met once a month.
Consistently, yeah.
For close to 2 years.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
And we stopped about a year before we went to Egypt.
Maybe a little
I would say,
longer,
or
but
longer, right?
Yeah.
So this was a while ago. And what we would do is we would meditate together, go someplace and retrieve information and bring it back and talk about it. So at some point during the years, we decided that we would meet at the feet of the Sphinx. So we would visualize ourselves standing at the feet of the Sphinx, and then we would go in meditation wherever we were going to go. Oftentimes it was below the Sphinx. We were seeing the same sorts of things, an obelisk, a library, some water tunnels and things like that. And we would come back and we would share notes, and inevitably more than one person would have the same experience. So the Sphinx was really profound, and we felt that we had almost been there. We could visualize it. It just seemed very vivid because we had been there. So when we were literally standing there in between the paws of the Sphinx, it just...
Okay, hold that thought, because I've got to, it's kind of rewinding in my head. So two significant moments. One is the moment that Abdullah told us that we have access, that everything is a go. I was just just getting ready to go in, and it hit me. I mean, the profundity of what is about to take place, I could feel all of the energies.
You were getting pinged on the bus too.
Well, right, and so I'm going to get to that. So just at that moment at the Great Pyramid, I'm getting this sense that all of these beings are coming around. They're all like right here, right now, and I could reach out to them at any moment. Well, then the very next morning, we got on the bus, and
to go to the feet of the Sphinx.
To go to the check-in point, basically, to get into the complex. I'm just sitting on the bus, and I'm not really kind of thinking about anything, but all of a sudden, my energy shifts, and I start going into a light language chant. I mean, it wasn't loud. It was just a whisper, but it was this overwhelming energy that was just pouring through me, and it would stop, and then a couple moments would go by, and then it would start again. all the way to the point at which we arrived. And then at that point, that was all preparatory for the experience of what we were getting ready to have, and the meditation and channeling that took place. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely just amazing.
Right. And so with regard to those of us, the 10 of us, out of the 10 of us, I think there were 5 of us that had been a part of this envoy group to one degree or another. And so it was really profound for the 5 of us, particularly because we felt we had been there before. So it was just so cool. So Abdullah leaves us and he's wandering around. We sit down and start to meditate together, and the light language comes back through. And what we found out later, I sensed that it was Ra, because Ra was apparently, and again, forgive me, I'm not an Egyptologist at all.
Maybe we should learn.
I'm learning bits and pieces, but there's a lot.
There's so much. There's so much.
But Ra was the god that was there in the time of the Sphinx at some point, right? He was prominent at that time. And he also has to do with the sun, and we were there at sunrise.
Right.
So when we started the meditation, it was roughly sunrise, and the call to prayer started at 6 o'clock. So as soon as he started,
as soon as
this light language started coming through.
As soon as because we did a little bit of talking just to kind of get everybody kind of centered, and right before I would begin the meditation or light language and all that stuff. But the call to prayer, there were some dogs barking in the background, and it was just so surreal to be there and be present with this entire group and all of the energy that's there, and then be able to be in a moment where you've got light language, and then go into a guided meditation, and then it progressed into a transmission from the Lyrans, I guess, or a Lyran council. I mean, it just was this, and the whole process was about 35, 40 minutes.
It was just seamless.
And it just flowed, and at every moment there was just this tranquility that was over everyone. It was just so beautiful. And actually, when I started my light language, I believe Judy was connected to a mantis being, and she was
bringing forth some DNA stuff as well.
Activating tones through the mantis. So it was just so profound and perfect. I'll just call it that. Very profound and perfect. Yeah.
So they started getting us into the settled, our energy settled via Ra and Isis were the ones that came through in the light language, and then progressed into a guided meditation, exactly like what we had done. They said, go down the stairs, in between the paws, there's a space. I don't even know if it's a real door there.
No, it was.
But we used to kind of create a door in our meditation.
Well, that's what so what we would see as a door,
you think now
is that steel, what they call a steel, and there's a whole story behind that. I'm not going to go into the history of it, but it's not steel as in like a piece of metal. It's they called it a steel, and it's
kind of a monument.
It's a tablet of language. So it's this commemorative, monument is by one other king that put it there. So
So they said to visualize this, stairwell, and we went down into the Sphinx. They said visualize this obelisk and gather around it or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, we all saw that obelisk in our meditation, and we didn't know if there really was one or not, or if it was energetic or real. We still don't know that for sure. But obviously it's there because they were guiding us to it. And then they said, from there, go wherever and have your own experience. So for me, I immediately went into this library that I had seen before. And it's this beautiful library with wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling books, beautiful leather chair to sit in. It was very comfortable. And me being a reader and a writer, it would have been comfortable for me. So I sat there looking at all the books on the wall. And a few of them started to light up, and I realized, this is all happening like within seconds, realizing that all of them are connected and that they were all, it was my library, because I kind of asked, I said, is this like the Akash or something like that? And they said, no, this is your library. All of these books represent your life, and the ones that were lighting up were the ones that represented the lives I had had in that area. And I felt them being connected and then infused into me in this physical life. So that was what I was getting out of the meditation. But everybody else had their own experience. They could stay in the Sphinx, or they could go out into the expanse, wherever they were guided to go. It was simply incredible. When we were guided back out of that meditation, then the Lyrans came through with a message which also, connected us to the feline energy.
Yep.
And then closed out. And then we met up with Abdullah and took the next 20 or 25 minutes to wander around and hear some more
Stories.
Special kinds of information from him about his understanding of what's been found there.
And what his grandfather found, and he showed us what his grandfather found while excavating there. And again, to mention, Abdullah's family's been there excavating and researching and, part of the whole culture of Egyptology. His whole lineage comes from that. So he's very well steeped in it, very well, or has a vast knowledge, but also he also understands and, honors those that want to seek the spiritual, because there is a spiritual side to it. And so it's not just about the analytical brain and how all things are. So. Yeah.
Right. And so many people had profound moments there. I know Vera was in tears because she really sensed her cat there connecting with her. And some other people had some moments. It was just, I don't know. I mean, yes, was it worth the $2,000? We each had to pay $200 extra. Yes, it was worth it. And if you're a part of a larger group, then you absorb the cost a little easier. I know the price is going up. So they are making it more prohibitive for groups to do that. But we
Smaller
really,
groups.
Again, we really got lucky with that. It was purposeful. It was obviously divinely inspired. And so that was what was so much magic, not just being there, but knowing the universe.
That was only day 3.
Yeah. And that was, we were done by 7. There was another group waiting to come in.
So
then we went back and had breakfast.
We went back to the hotel and had breakfast.
Had to check out of our hotel. And then we did the bazaar and
a few of the mosques.
And stuff. And then
and then airport to Luxor.
So then, we were at the airport later in the day. Matter of fact, we mentioned that we were there at the Sphinx at sunrise. So we did see the sunrise while we were standing there, which was amazing. And that's Ra, representing Ra as well, right? So we're at the airport, we're waiting, all sitting around at a little cafe area. And I look over this bank of windows and I see the sun just about to set over the horizon. And for whatever reason, I didn't say, hey, because everybody else was buried in their phone and doing stuff. I said, do you guys see? Ra's about to set. And I don't know why I said Ra. Like normally I would just say the sun is about to set. I said, Ra is setting. And we took some pictures and watched Ra sink below the horizon. And so later in channeling, we understood that Ra was with us
the whole day,
from sun up to sundown, to share in the joy of that moment and to know that we were all connected. It was just an incredible day, So then we started exploring. That was everything in around the area of Cairo. We went down to Luxor and started touring around that area. And the first thing that we did was go to Dendara.
Which is about an hour and a half north of Luxor.
Right. Definitely worth the extra trip if it's not part of your tour. And we went to the Temple of Hathor. Now, on the way, Abdullah is telling us the whole connection. And I think I kind of muddled it up a little bit in episode 1. This whole connection with Isis and Osiris and the relationship between Isis and Hathor. And so if, one of the brothers, was trying to kill Isis. And that is when the energy of, I think it was... why am I trying this again?
I don't know.
Why am I trying this again? At any rate.
There's a story. Go look it up. It's
at any rate, Isis, Hathor, and Sekhmet are all kind of the same
energy, just different forms of that energy, right? And they all have specific meanings within the representation.
Right.
So yes.
And so when you see the mother energy, when you see the breastfeeding depiction on the wall, that's Hathor energy. Isis is the queen. If you see the particular headdress, then you know that's, I don't know if queen is the word that they use, but at any rate. And then Sekhmet, of course, is the cat, the feline energy, and that's more of that was the protectorate, the warrior, that type of energy.
Right.
So in other words, when you're at the Temple of Hathor, you're going to see imagery and things related to not only Hathor, but also Isis and Sekhmet.
Right.
And so one of the most profound places within that Temple of Hathor was this, again, locked up
Little chapel.
little chapel, right? Isis,
Outside.
the Isis chapel.
So you've got the Temple of Hathor, the big temple with the big pillars. And if you watch the video, you'll see some imagery of that. But behind it is a smaller chapel, and that's the Chapel of Isis. So, yeah.
And so what's sad about all of these, and you'll see when we talk about Karnak, and they did the same thing at the Sekhmet chapel, they've started just putting locks on the outside of these
And actually,
areas.
January 1st, I believe, is when they started doing that.
That was the one at
For
Karnak. I don't know about
true.
this one.
But ISIS, I don't know.
And so, again, they want you to pay extra money to do all of these things. Well, at any rate, we were able to get into that one and spend some time in there. And I think you were bringing forth a lot of heart-centered.
Very heart-centered energy, very deep. I mean, we talk about what unconditional love feels like. This was well beyond what you would think unconditional love even feels like. There was a deep heart-centered energy that was present there that just really, was overwhelming. But in the same right, very grounding. It was very present. So, a lot of that is still fuzzy because, again, when I get into those moments, it's kind of like going into deep trance. I don't remember a lot of what takes place other than what I've sensed and felt. So I can't, a lot of times it's hard to recall every moment. So, yeah.
Right. And there were a lot of tears there from various people in the group. So that was a very profound place. Excuse me. And then there's a pool. It's not filled, but it's really deep. It was very deep and with high sides that used to be used for cleansing and purification.
It was a purification pool back when you would go do the ritual of, anointing and all of that.
Preparing the body for transition and that sort of thing.
Right.
So cleansing the energy field and the body and all of that. And so Judy, I know, had a profound experience there, a feeling that she had been there before. And other people had throughout that temple. Various moments. So that was really.
There's actually one very interesting picture, and I believe it's on the video that I put together. I made a link on it on the very first video, first episode of this series, our little YouTube video I put together, where we're in the Hathor temple, and Abdullah is taking us to different crypts within the temple, and there's a moment where we're getting ready to take a kind of a group photo on a set of stairs. And
the light.
Right, the sun was coming in perfectly, lighting up two carvings of Hathor on the wall, probably 30 feet up off the ground. It was just the sun was coming in perfectly and just illuminating just those two faces, that was just, that's one of those moments where you
we were in the right time.
Right, in the right time, and you see you actually see the architecture of how they actually built things for illumination. As we're ascending this spiral, it's a spiral, but it's more of a square block spiral all the way up to the roof, because that's one of the places he wanted to take us. There's a large astrological chart on the ceiling, zodiac chart on the ceiling. That's why we're going up that way. But there are windowlets, I'll call it that, little slots in these particular walls that are aligned to the sun, so that shaft or that square staircase is always illuminated at some level. And even he was showing us how from the roof all the way down to the lowest floor, there are shafts that the light comes in and emits into the room. So this isn't just like,
it's not haphazard construction.
No,
that's for
there is purposeful design in all of it. So it was very, very interesting. Yeah.
And again, all of the energy that we felt when we went into these temples, it isn't about the temple itself per se. It's about the energy that they built the temple on purposefully, because the energy was on. I mean, the land was on a ley line or something of the sort.
And I talk about being on the roof, and I think one of the profound moments that I had while I was on the roof and was just looking at the roof structure itself, walking on the roof structure. And you can see it's not a flat, these are giant slabs of granite that have been in place for thousands of years. You see the foot traffic. I mean, you see how it's worn down foot step by footstep. And I had to stop for a moment because I was like, I'm walking where someone walked 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And it just takes your breath away because you're like, I want to go back to that moment. I want to regress myself to go back to that moment, to be in the clothes and in the time and see it for all of its beauty. Because everybody's just walking around, milling about, taking pictures. But if you just take a moment and realize you're stepping in history, you are history at that moment, it really kind of just almost throws you back on your heels, because it's almost, you can't comprehend the amount of time that has elapsed, and yet it's still here. It's still present. Now, granted, for a long period of time, it was covered by sand, but it's just, you see where people have walked over and over and over again. It's just, it's astonishing.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. So then the next major thing we did were the Valley of Kings and Queens. And I didn't specifically get anything in those places other than, of course, the beauty and the awe of seeing. Like every day it seemed that the inscriptions and the hieroglyphs on the walls and the tombs and things just got more vivid and more beautiful and more clear and more detailed. Especially, I guess, those underground like that, because there was less wear. Right, and there would have been less wear or sand blowing across and things.
And so you have to understand, so the Temple of Hathor or Dendera, it has progressed through time, through a number of different societies. That's the best way to say it. So you've got the dynasty that actually built it, did all of the hieroglyphs, did all of that. And then at a particular point, the Romans, Greek, I guess the Romans came in and occupied. And so somebody mentioned, well, why does this all look like soot? And it's because during that time period, because that's when Christianity started coming around, anything that depicted anything of a king or a queen that wasn't of the time, they defaced. Particularly
so you'll notice chipping away of noses are gone.
Right, that takes the power away. So a lot of the inscriptions were defaced, and so you begin to understand the bigger picture of conquering and overthrow and all of that. And so like the Temple of Hathor, there's a lot of soot that's still on the walls because they came in and burnt the structure, because they actually, if I remember right, Christians or not Christians, anyway, a particular group utilized Hathor's temple as a
they were
refuge.
Living in there.
They basically built a city within that structure. That's how big this thing is. Right. And then when the Romans came, they set flame to it and burned it all down. So,
well, I don't know if they burned the whole thing down, but there were people living in it.
Well, they burned whatever the wood is. They obviously, the brick and the murals are still there. But so you see that all taking place over a period of time, and it's just it really is just amazing how time progresses and history progresses with it, and all of it starts to kick in. Like, oh, wait a minute, that's the Greco-Roman time, and this is where this began, and this is where this began. And the pieces start to fall into place. I don't have a great grasp of it. It's just I see the fringes of it, but there's just so much.
But the actual tombs, the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens, where we saw also King Tut's tomb and his mummified body, which was phenomenal. I mean, all of that is worthy to see. I don't know that we had anything profound enough in terms of energetic experience there.
I think Judy felt a few things. I think the Jollies, or at least Rebecca felt. I know Rebecca was very connected to a lot of the hieroglyphs. She spent a lot of time energetically connecting it with a lot of the hieroglyphs, which was a good, which was really interesting. To witness that. So she would spend a lot of time in those moments to connect. So, yeah.
But the next profound one was the Karnak Temple, the Karnak Temple. And that, again, they have a chapel of Sekhmet, which we were there literally on the 2nd of January, I believe, and it was on the 1st that they decided to lock that one up too. Yeah. But we did see a picture, and we've posted that on I believe some of our Facebook things,
on the Facebook,
of the Sekhmet within there.
Yeah.
And what you can see, because the door is not see-through, you can't see into that room at all. And then there's sort of like a window looking thing, but it's not a window. It just looks indented like a window might look. So we were putting our hands on that and sort of leaning into that area to sort of tune into Sekhmet.
Didn't the guard?
Yeah, the guard there, he
Yeah.
put Judy and Rebecca up there, and they were doing some light toning. I know they frown upon the toning and stuff. So they were just doing some light stuff and really feeling a connection. And then he put me up there too. And I was trying to tap in.
And is that also where the seven
Yeah.
doors?
Yeah. And then right around the corner from that
is where the 7 doors are. If you've ever heard of 7 doors, it's on the video.
Which is another huge portal.
Very big. It's like if you take one door, shrink it down by a quarter, put it into that one, and again, basically you got this descending doorway, basically. And I spent a moment where I just kind of leaned forward and pointed my head towards the middle, the very center door. And for a moment there, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden it did feel like, I'll say the universe around me just went into that center door. And if I would have stayed there, and again, we're not really allowed to stay an exorbitant amount of time, but if I could spend maybe 30, 40 minutes there, I don't know where I'd go, because I could feel being drawn into that expanse that exists beyond that. So
Right.
yeah, it was very profound.
We were there in December, which is prime tourist time. And so all of these places are packed. I didn't get that impression at Karnak as much. It didn't feel like it was wall-to-wall people, but there were a lot of people. But our guide was able to move us into different areas where there weren't crowds.
That was
to see things in different orders than you might have if you just went through it naturally, right? And so when we were there by Sekhmet and by those doors, there wasn't anybody else around at the moment.
Yeah, so to give you some perspective, if you Google search Karnak and just the layout of Karnak, that place is immense. It's
huge.
Just immense. And Abdullah, I think I mentioned on the first one, I asked him, I said, how long would it take you to walk through here? I mean, it would several weeks. He said longer than that. It's just, you really can't take in everything. It's just, there's so much. And yeah, that was the blessing with Abdullah. He knew that, we could go the normal crowd route and see the normal crowd things, but he likes to show us the things that he knows are very impactful. So he took us kind of around the back, around the side, and to get to these different things. And then we came in the back way and made our way through the crowd, that type of thing.
So if the crowd's over here, we're going this way, and then we switch off.
Yeah.
He was just beautiful, perfect. That was, then the last one we saw was the Temple of Luxor Temple, but the only thing that I think people noticed was the energy was a little bit heavier there.
And that's because, that I tapped into while I was there, is because that in itself, Luxor Temple during that particular dynasty was very vibrant. And then
I think they said it had been taken over multiple times.
Numbers of times. And I think
you're feeling that.
The last one was they actually turned it into a number of the spaces in it. They turned it into a church.
They built a mosque within it.
Well, they built a mosque off to one side, but then further back there was an actual chapel. Right, a Christian chapel. And so what you see is where they've taken some of the old blocks to build these things that have inscriptions on them, and they're upside down, and they're twisted wrong, and feet are upside down, and arms are off to the side. So it's been repurposed in a way that I'll say didn't hold the energy
and
correctly.
It probably wasn't a pleasant handover.
Right.
So you're feeling the energy of these conquerings or taking over and so forth. So that was interesting. And also what was interesting is I came home with, started on the very last day when I was en route home with the runs for about 7 days. Luckily I didn't have bad stomach issues. It was just the runs. In full vulnerability, like we like to do, but
not to paint a picture.
The point was that the energy of, I think it was Karnak, is also a very grounding energy and energy of release.
Right.
So a friend of ours, Julia, who lives over there, was telling us that she visited Karnak with another woman who lives in Luxor and 2 Egyptian guides. And all 4 of them had the same issue with their digestive system, even though they were used to the food and everything there. They all lived there, right? And so the point was that Karnak energy helps your body to physically let go and release in a physical way of the energetic clearings that you've been having while you're there. And so I had been having energetic clearings and healings and so forth the whole week. By the time we got to Karnak, my body recognized that, oh, you're almost done. Go ahead and release physically. And so that's what happened, to let out that energy on the physical level.
Yeah. And just, too, don't think we mentioned it. Now, you guys walked it. I didn't, or walked a portion of it. I didn't. But there's an avenue.
Right.
They call it the Avenue of the Sphinx, that connects Karnak to Luxor Temple, Karnak Temple to Luxor Temple. And it's, I think,
3 kilometers?
3 kilometers, I believe. So it's quite long. But it's lined with statues of Sphinx, all small, not large like what we went to visit. But
yeah, that was cool.
But yeah, so there's a lot of energy on that. And a lot of people do walk that. It's a very common path to walk. And there's also, back in that time, the Nile was much higher. The Nile has been controlled via dams, so it doesn't flood, on the annual basis like it normally would. But yes, so where Karnak is, there was actually a harbor or a port right there, because you can see where the Nile is, and that would have been where they would have brought, stone and different goods into Karnak, which I thought was quite fascinating. So.
Yeah, so that pretty much sums up the energetic portion of our trip. It was
well, and I'll
add in?
you shared a little bit of your moment. I too had a very uncomfortable moment where.
oh, right.
And this
that was
goes back, and so some of you have heard me talk about this probably on previous podcasts, where I've always felt very connected to the Middle East. My very first adventure to the Middle East was as a government contractor to Kuwait and then into Iraq. And when my very first stepping off of a plane in Kuwait to transfer to the military side to fly into to Iraq, and this is well before my awakening, I felt a very strong presence of being home. I couldn't explain it, couldn't understand. I didn't understand it, but I just felt very at home. I spent 3 months in Iraq or 4 months in Iraq, and then the rest of my time was in Kuwait, living what they would say is on the economy, meaning in an apartment. So I wasn't living on a base, and I felt very comfortable, very at home. It didn't matter where I would walk or go to. I always felt completely fine. So it was just a presence that's always been with me. Well, I knew I always wanted to go back. Allison never did. She's like, nope, not doing it. And we figured out why and all of that through channeling. And then going back again. It was like being plugged in and recharged and filled back up the whole time I was there. And so as we wrap up, and the very last day we fly to Cairo, and then we were staying in a hotel right near the hotel. Everything's fine. And man, it was a late night, early morning. We get on the plane, and our route takes us from Cairo to Morocco to DC, and then home. So it's about from Cairo to the Mediterranean, because you fly over the Mediterranean, because you're not going to fly over Libya, I believe it is. Not going to fly over Libyan airspace. They're going to take you out into the Mediterranean and over the Mediterranean towards Morocco. Anyway, so it's about an hour-ish and change from Cairo to the Mediterranean once you cross land to water. And I'm fine. I'm completely fine. Nothing. I am not feeling any problems. I got my headphones in. I'm watching some stuff on my phone. And all of a sudden, I start getting this uncomfortable feeling, we'll call it. And I don't know exactly where we were at that moment, but I just, I'm not watching watching the telemetry thing that's on the screen. I just, all of a sudden, I started getting irritated. I didn't want to listen to anything. I didn't want to watch anything. So I took my headphones out and I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, now, mind you, I've flown thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not maybe millions of miles. I've never had to reach for that little white bag in the back of the seat in front of me, ever. I did. I grabbed it, and you have to pull the top off, and I look at Allison, and I just go, oh, shit. And she's like, you look white. And I felt like I was going to, and so I look back, and I'm looking at the bathrooms, and it's lined up, and I'm like, this is not going to work. So I just sat, and I went into a very quiet space in my head and just did some breathing, and just to relax my nervous system. I didn't understand everything that took place. It finally calmed itself to where I could take a little bit of medicine that I had with me to kind of calm my stomach, just in the event that something would happen. But that was a very uncomfortable, I'll say 13 hours, because it lasted all the way until the point at which we got back home. And we channeled about it. And I got an insight in DC. Yeah, when we arrived in DC and we spent the night in DC at a hotel, I got insight. What was taking place was I was energetically unplugged. And so it was kind of that quick disconnect from where I was plugged in and energetically connected. And that completely just turned my system. And that's why I never did use the bag. It was just a precaution, but I was able to energetically calm my nervous system and put it back into check, because I have such a deep connection there. I have such a deep, I'll say even lineage or heritage there that I don't know about. I mean, obviously it's past lives, but that when I was disconnected, because once we crossed into the Mediterranean, I was disconnected from that energy that I was connected to, that Egypt energy. And so it's very profound. So it's going to be interesting going back to see how that happens again, because it was very interesting.
Yeah, maybe the connection and disconnection will be a little more subtle this time, because your body will be used to it.
But I will say, that was the only symptom. That was the only thing. Allison had a head cold and that stomach issue for about a week.
Thank goodness none of it was till the end. So
yeah, it was all to the end. Now we had a few people, but that was all energetic too. I mean, yes, physically they had some illnesses, respiratory and different things like that. But it was all necessary to clean and cleanse and purge and take care of things that maybe from past lives that have had some connection there energetically. So they were clearing all that. Everybody processes in a different way. Everybody energetically clears and processes in a different way. So,
and what's interesting is the collective mentioned that what has taken place is similar to a medicine ceremony.
Yes.
So the trip was our medicine, and the experience is over. Now it's taken place, and so now it's the integration. And as you know, with any medicine ceremony, it's about the integration. So you can have as many medicine ceremonies as you want, but if you don't integrate and take time to figure out the purpose and the meaning and all of that, then it's not as valuable. So we will be integrating, I have a feeling, for quite some time. They suggested that we sit in quiet and go back to those points. Yeah.
Well, you had a moment yesterday as we were driving to coffee, and you were just being filled with the memory and the gratitude of the whole experience.
Well, the memory and the gratitude are easy to call upon. I mean, it was amazing. It was so much fun. The group bonded so well. Everybody was happy and flexible, and all there for the right reasons and the same reasons, really. And just every day was a miracle. Everything that could go, somebody said in the feedback, everything that could go right went right.
Right. It's like it was the opposite of Murphy's Law.
Right. Yeah. Right. Other than us being tired, because it was like cramming in.
I think even Abdullah said, you can sleep when you go home.
Yeah. We crammed in like 15 days into 6 full days.
Yeah.
We're going to go a little bit longer on this next trip.
Yeah.
So if this is piquing your interest and you're interested in
keep an eye
joining us, we're going to be advertising that in the next
probably next 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So. Yeah. We're finalizing all of the details. We have a rough itinerary right now. We're just finalizing all of the details. So we have a good, clear.
Many of the same sites, and then some other
additional
things that are going to be phenomenal.
Yep.
So yeah, it was miraculous, literally miraculous. And it was a privilege to be able to do that.
For sure.
And a privilege to be able to chat with you. And we appreciate you all who have been watching all along. We appreciate that. We love all of you guys. We appreciate your support. Please hit the thumbs up and support in that way. Comment if you want to, and let us know what your experiences have been. Or anything we got wrong or didn't understand, share, because we are going again, and we are going to have a lot more knowledge over this next year, I think. Go ahead and share the video if you want with others. And look for episode 4 and or 5.
Right.
We'll be putting out a series of these each week.
Yep.
So thanks again for joining us on Out on a Limb podcast, and we will see you next time.
See y'all.